The prize for writing was started a couple of years ago by David Morley, who's the head of our creative writing programme. And what he was interested in was underlining just how good Warwick is at the arts and humanities.
When I heard about it, I thought, what a great idea, because it's got a theme. It's attached to a university, which actually I think is quite important. I think it's really, it's not so much about saying, oh, we want only academic work or scholarly work. In fact, it broadens out what people might think a university is for. And Warwick's got a really great reputation for the arts and humanities.
Usually these prizes are prizes for fiction, or a prize for poetry, or a non-fiction prize, or a biography prize. Well, the interesting thing about this, the only way you can judge it is to think in terms of writing, because it can be obviously of any genre, and so it's got to fit the theme, it's got to say something interesting to the theme, about the theme. So in that sense, it puts you in a very strange place as a judge, because you're comparing completely unlike books, but really on the basis of which is the most interesting or the best, written in the best kind of a way. So it really does put you on your toes. I love it. It's very interesting.
The thing that's been most enjoyable has been simply discussing backwards and forwards judgments on the books, in the same way that lots and lots of people around the country are always doing in book clubs and so on and so forth. In some ways we're no different, except that our experts really are experts, except for me.
Coincidentally, I've been judging a couple of other prizes at the same time, but luckily they're not all literature prizes. Otherwise, I think I would have been, like, as it were, booked out. But it's great to have an opportunity to read different kinds of books. I think that's what's been really important for me, looking at different genre, looking at different styles of writing and covering a welter of different subjects.
The long list was very interesting. Some of the books, in a sense, excluded themselves in the end, because they weren't sufficiently either about colour or a reflection on it.
The whole point of having a theme is that you should be able to discern within the text something that relates to that. Now, in some of the text that's really obvious. In some of the text it's signalled in the titles, but in others it's much more subtle. And what I like about it is the range of ways of approaching that. You know, so you can go from the very obvious, this is all about colour and camouflage and what have you, to something where it just kind of underpins very gently what's being said, but at the end of the text you think, oh yeah, I can see how that theme of colour, subtle as it is absolutely integral to the book.
It's an interesting theme, quite challenging in some ways, but what it's allowed us to do is to end up with a shortlist which basically has almost every kind of writing on it, one way or the other. It has poetry, it has science writing, it has novels.
Now we've reached this really exciting stage, so it's like, what next? How do we narrow it down next? And the closer it gets to, you know, actually finding the winner, the more nerve-wracking in a way it is, I think.
We're going to have to engage with, are we choosing a winner on the basis of the best written book? Or someone might throw that up in the air and say, no, we can't do that. We have to say which book addresses the question of colour the best.
The difficulty, of course, is once you're judging across genres, it becomes a much harder task, because some of the time you're really comparing chalk with cheese. But we'll try our best.
And I can anticipate that we're going to be having, you know, some really interesting discussions about the individual texts. I'm sure each colleague, each judge will have a particular favourite. I know I do. And it's like, you know, you've got to hold your corner and argue for that.
Plenty to argue about. I have no idea which one's going to be the winner. Not a clue.